Hey, what's going on? It's me, therealflyguy, and I wanted to talk about this new update that's been released for TF2 that's been going on the past couple days. Recently, Valve implemented the Jungle Inferno update for Team Fortress 2, which adds in a bunch of new community maps, includes more skins that you can now paint on your guns with war paint, and they also added some new weapons and they changed some other weapons around. Unfortunately, most of the changes that happened in this update were kind of problematic to me, and that was kind of what I wanted to discuss in this video. It's mainly the weapons that I had a problem with, because they changed one of the most iconic things about one of the weapons that has been in Team Fortress 2 for so long. And that is the Sandman. The Sandman in TF2 was originally a wooden baseball bat that would launch a high-speed baseball at your enemies, causing them to be stunned from a distance, which would leave them vulnerable to attacks. This was really useful when fighting a heavy or a soldier who are targets with very high health, because they would be unable to attack and you would get a few seconds to get a couple hits on them. However, now in this update, the Sandman only slows down enemies when struck with a baseball from a distance, which I think kind of ruins the whole original purpose of the weapon itself. The Sandman was always meant to be just a baseball bat that would be capable of stunning enemies, and you could get some quick hits on them while they were defenseless. Aside from the Sandman changes, I think that some of the new weapons that were implemented also cause a little problems, mainly just because they are very hard for new users to pick up who are taking up the free contracts. The main issue here is the thermal thruster, which is the new jetpack for Pyro. In theory, it seems great because it allows you to fly for a short distance, and it also deals 3 times falling damage when you land on somebody as Pyro. However, I tried to use the weapon myself for the free contract, and let me just say that it is very difficult to control the actual jetpack. It took me a while to figure out that I actually had to aim my cursor up to actually maneuver this thing. And nowhere in the description of the weapon did I see, oh, you need to use your mouse cursor to move in the direction that you want to go. There is just not a lot of good amount of user friendliness with that weapon. Another weapon I decided to try out was the Gas Passer, which is a gas can that douses enemies in gas, and if you light them on fire, it inflicts afterburn on them, even on enemy pyros. The only real issue with the weapon here is that the recharge time for it is extremely long, longer than even Mad Milk or Girardi, and nothing really resets it. You start out with an empty charge bar, and you have to constantly fill it just by wandering around. Fortunately, the charge bar is retained on death, so you don't have to do it all over again. Aside from the weapons, something else that I thought was a problem was the new maps. Visually, they're great. I think that they're beautiful masterpieces of map-making art. But gameplay-wise, there's a lot of holes in them. I'm going to use the map Banana Bay as a prime example of how bad the map design is in some of these. Banana Bay visually looks great. I like the textures on the rocks and on the sand and on the palm trees and on almost every other aspect of the map. However, the real problems with Banana Bay comes to the actual gameplay. It's a payload race map, but the payload tracks are just a clusterfuck of 3 platforms stacked on top of each other, and it's very confusing to navigate if you don't know the map very well. And another problem is that the payload actually needs to be held onto a train track for it to detonate, and you have to wait for the train to come. This is an okay mechanic, but it's not okay when the right door of spawn is literally right next to the train tracks, so you have a chance of being run over when you walk out of the spawn and you don't know when that train is going to come. I just personally feel that that's a rather bad gameplay mechanic to have a possible environmental kill point right outside of the spawn door. Another map that I like to discuss is Moss Rock for its gameplay. This is a 2CP map that is set in the mountains of a jungle. The final cap point is guarded on the red spawn side by another train that comes and passes through. This train moves so slow that the enemy can contest the point to almost 50% before the train actually allows you to get across. Moss Rock's final cap is also very open and there are not a lot of spaces to attack from. The point is directly in your view if you come out of one of the right side doors, but otherwise it's just very difficult to get across there because the range for sentries and mini-sentries is unbelievably high. The final map that I'm going to discuss is Valve's officially made Mercenary Park. It takes place in the former Yeti Park owned by Saxton Hale after he had destroyed the last Yeti in the Source Filmmakers short. He decided to rename it to Mercenary Park and open it up to the red and blue teams to constantly fight each other, being that it was formerly a Yeti fighting park, as Saxton refers it to. The map gameplay itself is 3CP, but towards the final point, again, another problem with the final point, it seems too much like the official map Gorge, because Gorge has a very wide and open middle point with barely any flanks, except for one on the right. This map plays almost exactly like Gorge towards the final point. The middle choke point for final is also very narrow, so unless you're playing a class that has a good amount of range, then you're probably not going to be able to get a lot of kills. If you're playing a close range class like Engineer or Pyro, then you're probably going to want to just stand near the point and wait for the enemies to rush in with an Uber, and wait for that to wear off so that you can get some free kills. Additionally, the right flank is also way too large, in my opinion. There's just a lot of room for multiple enemies to come from that side all at once, because I have played a game on Mercenary Park where there were 4 enemies coming all from the right flank, and they had a very ample amount of room, and it was easy for them to make a push. Overall, I just feel that the official map is more tipped towards the attacking team rather than the defending team, because they have a lot more ease of access for actually contesting the points. That's enough about me ranting about the maps and the weapons for now. Everything else is just something that I really don't like to see, because recently, ever since the gunmetal update, Valve has honestly just been taking concepts from CSGO and implementing into TF2. Like, there's no sugarcoating that anywhere. In my personal opinion, I think that the war paints aren't all that bad, but also, I don't think that skins should have been a part of TF2 in the first place, beginning with gunmetal. Honestly, it seems like Valve is just trying to recycle as many updates as possible at this point. Solely because we just have more skins, more cases, another contract pass, and more disappointment from the TF2 community in general. So that's just basically my 2 cents on the entire update in a nutshell. And don't even get me started on the fucking ass blaster kill taunt for the thermal thruster. And again, remember, these are just my opinions. If you personally want to discuss something with me, then you can let me know. Otherwise, just leave a comment if you agree, if you disagree, if you think that something I said was actually incorrect. Please let me know, because I would like to actually get feedback on that in case I do more videos like this. Anyways, thank you for watching for whoever did, and I will see you later. Peace.
Ja, ik snap het wel weer.